Hi, my name is Andy Deitmeyer, Culinary Manager here at Mercy Medical Center in Cedar Rapids. Today we're going to be making some whole wheat focaccia with fresh tomato, basil, and cheese. It's a great appetizer snack, or it can be served as a pizza. You can even use it as a full entree if you like, but it's a nice type of dough. It's something you can make at home. It's got a great texture. It's really versatile. So let's get started. I've got my flour. I'm going to add my salt. Then I'm going to take this is just lukewarm water. You always want to use lukewarm water when working with yeast. I've got dry active yeast here. And I've got sugar there. Just granulated sugar. You just want to give this a stir a little bit. You want to get this yeast activating. The sugar, or the yeast eats the sugar, so you want to have some sugar in there. That's what gets it going. And you want to let this sit for about 5 minutes or so. Give that yeast a chance to wake up, get active. So in the meantime, we've got our flour and our salt. We're going to throw some red onion in there for some flavor. You also want to add a little olive oil to your water. That helps give the bread the nice texture that it has. Alright. Now this you could make in a KitchenAid mixer at home with a dough hook, but like I said, it's a really delicate dough, so it's very easy to knead by hand. You don't even really need to have a mixer. So our yeast is activated, it's ready to go. I'm going to pour this right into our bowl. We're going to get mixing it here just a little bit by hand to get it started. Make kind of a little bit of a ball before we turn it out onto the counter and start kneading it by hand. So you just want to get working it until it starts making a dough ball. Keep rolling it around, working it over itself. If your dough's a little wet and it's sticking to your counter, just throw a little flour down to kind of dust the countertop a little bit. And you're going to want to knead this for about 8 to 10 minutes, just nice and gently. So you start feeling to get a little bit more of that elasticity that you're familiar with bread dough. It'll have a nice elastic texture to it. Then you know you're right. Okay, so once you got your dough kneaded and it's proper, you want to put it back into a bowl, lightly greased, cover it, and then wait till it's doubled in size. So at this point, this dough has already doubled in size. It was half its size. It's really airy right now. At this point, you want to punch down your dough. Keep folding it in. You want to get all that air back out. That's just one of the steps with this type of dough. Rework it. You'll feel the little air bubbles coming out of it. You're pressing all the air back out. You'll notice it's just got a great texture to it. It's not too firm like some French breads, which are really hard to knead by hand. This is real gentle to knead by hand. That olive oil in there helps keep the dough from getting really tough and really elasticity, but you got the elasticity of it in it. So that's ready. I'm going to grab a sheet tray. You want it to be pretty generally greased with olive oil. Focaccia bread is great. It's got olive oil in it. It's got olive oil on the bottom, on the top. It adds to all that flavor. Let's press it out into a kind of a sheet, about 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch thick, somewhere in there. You just keep working it, and you see that elasticity. That's what wants to pull it back together there. That's the gluten in the flour. and I like to give it some divots in it. That way it can hold parts of the olive oil that we're going to put on top of it. We're just going to drizzle this with some olive oil. Kind of rub that in. Now we'll let this proof again. So we want this, before we take this to the oven, we're going to let this double in size again before we put it into the oven. Alright, so our dough came out of the oven. It's got a nice golden brown color. Smells great. There's all those onions in there. They really came out. You can really smell that. So we're just going to make pretty much like a standard, a real classic margarita pizza. We're going to take fresh tomatoes. This is great in the summertime when the tomatoes are local and fresh. The fresher the better for something like this. Just lay them out. We're going to chiffonade some fresh basil over this. The chiffonade just refers to the shape of the cut on the basil. So you want to stack your leaves. That's how you get those really nice thin cuts like they have in the restaurants. And it really opens up the aroma of the basil. So you want to take that and roll it. And it's good to have a really sharp knife when you're working with basil because it's very delicate. It bruises really easy. So make sure you're using a good sharp knife. And you just want to shave that really nice and thin. We're going to top with some mozzarella cheese. You can use some shredded cheese. You can use fresh mozzarella. Anytime I'm using fresh herbs, I like to use them right at the end. Really keep that fresh flavor going. So we're going to bake this as it is. Then when it comes out, then we're going to hit it with that fresh basil. Because when that fresh basil hits this and it's hot, it's just going to keep that nice fresh flavor from the basil, and it's going to come out. And you sprinkle it over there. It's awesome. So you want to keep those herbs fresh when you're cooking with fresh herbs. You want to use them at the end. Keep that good fresh flavor. So we're going to get this into the oven. Drop this in the oven. You can bake this about 425 degrees. It's pretty hot because the dough is already cooked, so we just want to get that cheese to get a nice golden brown on it. Shouldn't take long. And then when it comes out, we'll hit it with that fresh basil and we're ready to eat. Here's our pizza out of the oven. Nice golden brown. These tomatoes, they kind of cook into the dough or the crust a little bit. Add a lot of flavor there. It's almost like a sauce. We'll just bring this off our pan. Got a nice crispy bottom. Little caramelized cheese on the outside. And so we're going to give it a little basil. And I like to hit it with a little more olive oil. You got a tasty snack there, or pizza, or an entree, whatever you want to treat it as. And you can just smell this. It smells fantastic. So, one thing I think I want to stress is that I know a lot of people kind of have fears of making bread and working with yeast at home. They think it's complicated, or that they're afraid they're going to kill the yeast, or the bread's not going to turn out. I really think you just give it a shot, run through those steps. We just went through it, how simple it really is. Making bread, they've been doing it forever. It's always been turning out. It's really simple. You just make sure your water's lukewarm. And I guess the biggest tip, what I would say, is keep your salt out of your water and yeast mixture. Keep your salt with your flour. That way, because salt can kill the yeast, but we don't want to overcomplicate this. It's really simple to make. Give it a shot. I think you'll be happy, and once you make your first loaf of bread, you'll start making it all the time, believe me.